One day I kind of had this weird abdominal pain right kind of below my ribs on my right side. It wasn't like a significant pain, like I'm talking 2, 3 out of 10, just enough to be uncomfortable, enough for me to notice it. I made the decision to go to the ER. They did do an ultrasound, and that is when we discovered some giant, they described it as giant masses on my liver. And I was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? He was like, yeah, there's one that's like the size of a grapefruit, going from like this normal, like healthy, what I thought, guy to now somebody who's fighting for my life with a cancer that I had never heard of before. It's a really weird shift. If I look back and think really hard about what was going on, there are things that I could point to and say, well, that was probably a red flag. Like there was a lot of like GI symptoms, a lot of like heartburn, and everything I would eat, it was like a lot of burping. There's just like little things like that I kind of just wrote off as I need to eat better, I need to take better care of myself, whatever it is, and just kind of wrote it off because I was young, healthy, right? And I was doing some Googling, and it was like, well, maybe it's a gallbladder thing or some type of infection, and they'll probably want to do an ultrasound to figure out what's going on. So I made the decision to go to the ER. They said it's really uncommon for us to see a primary liver cancer in someone your age who doesn't have a history of severe alcoholism. And they said usually when we see something like this, it's starting somewhere else and spreading to the liver. So there was a period of time there, a couple of days, where I was just thinking my entire body's covered in cancer and I've got like a few weeks to live. They did a CT scan immediately after that. And thankfully, they didn't find any evidence of disease outside my liver. But there were these giant, almost 11 centimeter mass on my liver. The other one was like almost 7 centimeters too. And then just like throughout my entire liver, just covered in cancer, which was pretty shocking. We waited like 4 days for the biopsy results. I was in the bathroom getting ready for bed on like a random Tuesday night, and I got the little notification, you've got a new test result in your MyChart. Open that up, and I saw adenocarcinoma, likely pancreabiliary origin, and I had to Google what the word adenocarcinoma meant, and cancer. I walked back out of the bathroom, and I looked at my wife, and she looked at me, and we both kind of knew exactly what was going on. That was a rough night. Yeah, I think we both went into this fight mode, and she's got a background in healthcare. She's got an MPH, so she kind of knows more than I do about the healthcare industry and how to navigate that. So it was a big help. From the get-go, she was helping me schedule appointments with, I think I talked to 4 or 5 different oncologists in that first week, just trying to figure out what type of cancer do I have. Luckily, we started to hear some of the same things, right? We think it's cholangiocarcinoma, and it was good to have like a label, like something that we could, okay, now we know what it is, we can fight it. I'm also the type of person that I love to have the information. I like to know what I'm up against. I like to know, okay, you say that 5-year survival rate is this, but then you read, the average diagnosis age is like 70, and then there's all these other things. And so it's like, it's hard, but it's also empowering a little bit to arm yourself with this information, and get a better understanding of like, what do I need to do to win? We both just went full speed ahead. We're going to fight this. We're going to win. There is no other option. I used to know this guy named Colonel Reeve. He's an Army Ranger, total badass. And he used to say, the worst thing you can do is nothing. In those early moments, that was in the back of my mind. The worst thing that you can do is nothing. You have to do something, especially when you're dealing with a rare aggressive cancer. You cannot just sit around and wait. A lot of the oncologists we talked to early on were not specialists in cholangiocarcinoma. We were lucky enough to get connected with a patient advocate. That's what ended up getting us connected with my first real oncologist in New York City at Sloan Kettering. We actually moved to Connecticut for 3 months so I could start care with this guy in New York City. His recommendation was what he called standard of care chemotherapy, which is gemcitabine, cisplatin, and durvalumab as the immunotherapy. Chemotherapy and immunotherapy on 1 week, and then the next week we would just do the chemotherapy, and then week 3 would be a break. The plan was we'd do that 3 times, and then we'd do another scan. and see what's going on. At this time too, I was also changing pretty much everything about my lifestyle. I became a vegan. I started juicing 3 times a day. I eliminated sugar, processed foods, anything that came out of a bag or a box. I love to cook, so I was making everything myself, down to like sauces and stuff like that. I was like very conscious about what I was eating, doing all of that stuff in combination with chemo and immunotherapy, and moving across the country, in this mindset of I'm going to do whatever it takes to survive. And then, we did the chemo and immunotherapy for 3 months. The scan showed progression. So my tumors actually got bigger after 3 months of chemotherapy and immunotherapy. And this entire change in my lifestyle, all of this diligence that I had been with my diet and everything, and just to think that all of that was doing nothing, I was mad. I was angry. Ultimately, it was a good thing. I think that it didn't work out, because after that June scan, it was like, we need to switch things up. We need to be way more aggressive with my treatment, and we need to start thinking outside the box. Because these guidelines, this playbook that they've created for cholangiocarcinoma, that's not going to work for me. We got to throw it out. We got to start new. I also got connected with a patient mentor through the Cholangiocarcinoma Foundation who got a transplant and was alive 5 years later. And from the moment I met him and heard his story, it's funny, we actually talked the day before my first appointment with that oncologist. So I heard that story, and from day one, that was kind of my North Star. I was like, this guy's alive. This is what he did. I'm going to do that. Tori and I went back and looked through my genetic testing, and we realized that actually I do have a targetable genetic mutation, and it's called the NRG1 fusion mutation. It's an incredibly rare genetic mutations. Discovered also that there is a targeted therapy for this genetic mutation. Went back to my oncologist and said, hey, what about this? And what we were told was, yeah, maybe, but let's keep it in our back pocket. And we were kind of like, why? Why would we keep this in our back pocket? I've never liked other people telling me what to do. I've always been very stubborn. It's just kind of who I've always been, I guess, and I'm grateful for it now. But for me, it was always about I'm putting my trust in somebody that I really don't know that well. And I'm just hoping that they're gonna leave no stone unturned and evaluate every possible treatment option and go down every rabbit hole. And they're just not gonna do that. I'm just one patient, and they have hundreds of patients. And I don't expect them to do that, right? They're busy. They have other things going on. I'm the CEO of my own body, right? I need to understand what's going on. I need to understand what my options are. If I Google and I read what's online, and I use ChatGPT and all these other things, and really understand what I'm up against and what my options are, I think we can have a better conversation between my doctor and myself. We kind of both have the full picture. So at that point, I spent the month of July basically traveling the country. Went to Boston, I went to LA, to USC, UCLA, I went to MD Anderson, I went to other doctors at Sloan Kettering, just trying to find somebody who would work with me and try this new drug. And pretty much all of them were like, yeah, let's keep it in our back pocket. And I was like, okay, you're not my doctor. I'm trying to be aggressive with my treatment. I'm trying to do whatever it takes. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I don't have a medical background. I don't even know what I'm doing, but it's I just had this feeling that this is what we needed to do. My doctor at MD Anderson, he was the only doctor that was like, yeah, I'll work with you. This might be a fight with insurance, but we'll do it. We did it. And I moved care to MD Anderson, and I started this new targeted therapy on July 24th. I actually got the call the day before my first treatment that insurance denied it, because this drug, zenocutuzumab, is FDA approved to treat pancreatic cancer and lung cancer. It was not approved to treat cholangiocarcinoma, and it wasn't in the NCCN guidelines as a treatment option for cholangiocarcinoma. So insurance denied it. And we had to pay for 2 infusions out of pocket. We drained our entire savings account, our kids' college money, pretty much everything we had. These infusions cost $77,000. $233 per infusion. It's a number I'll never forget in my life. We paid for 2 of those out of pocket. During that time, we fought with insurance for a month, every day calling, but we ended up getting it approved. After 1 infusion, my CA19-9 is a tumor marker for GI cancers like cholangiocarcinoma. My CA19-9 was about 4,000 when I started this treatment. After 1 infusion, it went down to 500. And it kept going down from there to the point where it was like almost in normal range. And my first scan after starting this treatment showed that my tumors were decreasing in size by more than 50%. That was a crazy thing to see, and just like so validating that like I had this feeling that this is what we need to do, and everybody said no, and like I just kept pushing, and it worked. Man, I am so grateful. After months of chemo, I felt normal. I was able to start working out again. I was able to start climbing mountains in Colorado again. These things that I thought maybe I would never get to do again, I was able to do again. According to the NCCN guidelines, if you have cholangiocarcinoma, transplant is an option for you if you meet these criteria. Number 1, you have to have disease stability for a period of about 6 months. So your tumors have to be shrinking or stable for 6 months. You also have to have tumors that are 3 centimeters or less in size. Oh, there also needs to be no extrahepatic spread. It has to be all isolated to your liver. MD Anderson doctors actually go to like a liver board, liver clinic with Houston Methodist transplant teams every 2 weeks, I think. Been talking to my doctor about this from day one. He knew that was my goal, and he's like, I want to help you get there. So I had been taking this targeted therapy since July, and my disease was stable for that period of time, shrinking for that period of time, and I was able to get referred over to Houston Methodist and start that whole evaluation process. They determined that I was a good candidate, but I did get a scan in early January that showed it was a confusing scan because my biggest tumor was still shrinking, then my second biggest tumor was stable, but then we were seeing kind of like really tiny lesions starting to come back in the liver. We can't say for sure that this is not working anymore, but we might be reaching the peak effectiveness, or we might be past that, which is a really scary thing to hear. After you've just done all this work, you've gotten here to this point where you've been evaluated, you've been approved, you know, your doctors say this is a good idea, and we got this scan, and then we submitted to insurance, and insurance denied. Am I panicking? Not yet. I have a really amazing team of doctors and nurses who are working through the appeals process right now. And it was one of those situations where time is not on my side. We need to get this done immediately. I don't know how long this treatment is going to last. And if it spreads outside my liver, transplant's off the table. In January, I had conversations with my oncology team in Houston at MD Anderson and my oncology team back home in Colorado at UC Health about, you know, what more can we do? And we decided to continue the targeted therapy and add FOLFOX and other systemic therapy on top of that to make sure that, you know, nothing was spreading or growing anywhere else. I said also, what about Y90 radiation? They're like, well, you know, let's hold off on Y90. Oncologists are very cautious, I think, by nature. And I get it to a certain extent, but like at this point, I could not be cautious. We need to be aggressive, and we need to throw everything at it because I'm just a couple months away from transplant, right? So they said, maybe not Y90. I said, I'm going to do it anyways. Y90, zenocutuzumab, my targeted therapy, and FOLFOX. Got another scan that showed everything was stable. We had a little bit of shrinkage in one of the tumors, but everything else stable. I'm not gonna drag this out. Looks like I'm approved for liver transplant. And during that time, my cousin was also being evaluated as a living donor. From day one, she was like, sign me up. I'll do it. I'll be a living donor. Hi, this is my cousin, Stephanie. She is going to be donating part of her liver to me.
If he plays his cards right.
A lot of people don't know this, but your liver is one of 2 organs in your body that will regenerate itself. The other is your skin. And so what happens with living donor liver transplant is they'll take up to 65-70% of her liver. So they took the right lobe from her, and they took my entire liver, removed it, and connected her right lobe to my arteries and everything. She's still got her left lobe, which will eventually grow back. Recovery has been so far a lot of naps. It's exhausting to regrow an organ and recover from a surgery like this. I don't have cancer anymore. My doctor said that to me the other day, and sure, there's always like the chance that something microscopic is in my blood and they didn't get it all out. But like today, I don't have cancer anymore. And that is crazy because when all of this started, I was literally told by my first oncologist, you're going to be on treatment for the rest of your life. In all my research and everything, what I took from that is that I'm going to be on treatment the rest of my life, and that's not going to be a very long time. And I had a 16-month-old son, and I, try to come to terms with that. I was like, that's not true. I have my son, I have my wife, and they need me. You don't know me, and this is not taking me out. And maybe that was delusional because this cancer is aggressive. I think I'm not letting myself process it yet. I think I'm still being cautious about it because I know that there's always a chance that something small got through and, whatever. There's no normal anymore. Whatever I was before this is gone. And we can grieve that guy. I have feelings about that, right? But when my son was born, I felt this sense of clarity and purpose, right? I am put on this earth to be this kid's dad. And that's my purpose. That's my calling, right? And in a lot of ways, I feel that same clarity right now. My purpose is to help as many people as I can with my story, with whatever that looks like, and I'm still figuring out what that looks like. Yeah, I feel like I've been given this opportunity to do something good with all of this. And it's an opportunity that a lot of people don't get. I'm trying to raise awareness about this disease, and I'm trying to raise money for Cholangiocarcinoma Foundation, an organization that really helped me when I was first diagnosed, and that helps a lot of people, and they're just amazing people. So I'm planning on climbing Mount Rainier in Washington in August of this year, a couple months. We'll see if I can do it. It's going to be a push with this recovery and everything, but I'm trying to climb Mount Rainier in August, and as part of that, I'm trying to raise $100,000 for the Cholangiocarcinoma Foundation. I still feel like my purpose is to be my kid's dad, right? That's always going to be there. Now I've got this new purpose as well, and that feels pretty cool. It feels exciting. It feels like, a new story that I get to write, that I'm in control of.